Hi there, I'm Jamie. Thank you for joining me today. If this is your first time joining me, I'd love to have you subscribe. Or if it's not your first time, but you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And when you have finished this practice, and if you loved it, go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know. This is a short flow today designed to help open up the sacral chakra, and that is our second from the bottom, and that one is going to be about water, about sort of getting into flow, the flow of life, flowing with life. It's about opening up your creativity. It's about sensuality and sexuality. So really kind of envisioning that element of water as you practice today and finding that sense of flow is going to help you to really get open in that space. So go ahead and get comfy on your mat. If you like to work with props, feel free. I'm not going to be demoing with them, but blocks, blankets, anything like that is, of course, always an option if you love them. All right, here we go. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to start on our backs today. Go ahead and find your way there, and whatever method is safe for you. And we'll begin in just a Shavasana shape. So let your legs go out long, let your arms rest at the sides of the body. Let your shoulders soften, your hips soften, let your head become really heavy here. Eyes close. And just bring your attention to your breath as it flows in and out through your nose. You might begin to slowly deepen your breath. So you're breathing and filling up your abdomen completely. And then exhaling that breath all the way out. Let each inhale fill you from the belly all the way up to the chest. And then each exhale empty from the chest down to the belly. Start to envision almost like a wave here. As you inhale, your entire upper body is filling and rising. And as you exhale, your upper body starts to release back down. So like a wave rolling in and out on the shoreline. That inhale is the rise of the wave. And that exhale is the wave rolling back out. Take a few more rounds of this breath at your own pace. And just try to keep your attention on the breath. So if the mind begins to wander away, which it very likely will, just remind yourself to shift the focus back to the breath flowing in and out. Start to generate a little bit of sound with that breath, like an ujjayi breath. Just a slight constriction at the back of the throat. So you can just slightly hear each inhale and each exhale as it flows in and out through your nose. You can keep that ujjayi breath going throughout this practice if it feels good. After your next exhale, you can just let yourself return to a nice natural breath, maybe still with that ujjayi breath, that sound. And we'll just bend into the knees, planting your feet on the mat, heels in near the sits bones. We want our feet about hip distance apart. You can imagine you might be holding like a tennis ball in between the knees. And bring the palms down on either side of the hips. We're going to start to flow a bridge pose here. So you don't have to lift the hips really high here, especially since we're just starting out. Just listen to the body and don't go further than it is ready for, here at the start of this practice. But we'll start by pressing into the heels of the feet, and as you inhale, just gently lift your hips towards the ceiling. And once you hit the top of the inhale, just pause, and then exhale, start to slowly bring the hips back down to the mat. And so what we want to try for here is to make the pace of our movement match the pace of our breath. So again, inhale and lift the hips, and see if we can take you all the way to the top of that inhale to get the hips lifted as high as they're going to go. Take that pause, and then as you exhale, we'll release the hips down. And again, maybe you can draw out the length of that movement to match the length of the exhale. Do that a couple more times. Try to keep the knees drawing in towards each other, almost like you're trying to squeeze a tennis ball in between your knees. And then maybe rolling your shoulders slightly under as you lift up. And then as you begin the next round, we're going to add the arms to this. So now as you inhale and lift the hips, float the arms up off of the floor, up overhead and back to the floor like you're reaching for the wall behind you. And then as you exhale and release, we'll bring the arms back to their starting position. So now we're trying to match the pace of the movement of the arms and the hips and match that to the pace of the breath. So take that a few times. Hey, buddy. My yoga assistant is joining us here. All right, last one. And then this time as you come down to the floor, once again with both the hips and the arms, we'll just pause here. We're gonna walk the feet out wide on the mat and then just windshield wiper your knees side to side a few times. And then draw the knees in towards the chest, rock side to side, give yourself a little massage here on your sacrum there at the base of the spine. And then start to rock up and down the spine. So we're gonna start small here, just some little rocks. Give yourself that massage along the length of the spine. And then let those rocks start to become a little bigger. And eventually we'll rock all the way up to a seat, and we'll roll right up and over into a tabletop. So you can always have a blanket under your knees if you're working with a blanket here. And we'll just align ourselves so our palms are underneath our shoulders and our knees are underneath our hips. Tops of the feet pressing into the mat and engaging your core. So draw the belly button in. Shoulders back away from the ears. We'll take a few rounds of cat-cows. Inhale, you're gonna lift the tailbone, drop the belly, pull the heart and the gaze forward. Exhale, tailbone towards the mat. Spine rounds up and chin moves towards the chest. Keep this going now with the breath. Again, you can work to match the pace of that movement to the pace of the breath. Maybe close the eyes if that feels good, and just let your attention move internally, really feel into the body. Notice how the spine is feeling here, the hips. And now we're going to add just a little bit onto this. So we're going to add a child's pose into the mix. So as you round up into that cat pose, you're going to set the hips back towards the heels and release the forehead towards the floor. It doesn't have to make it there, but that's the way it's headed. And then the inhale draws you back up and into that cow pose with the heart pulling forward. Exhale to round into cat. Set the hips back towards the heels. Inhale, drawing forward into cow. A few more times at your own pace. And we'll have this be the last one. And when you settle into your child's pose here, let's just stay. Maybe draw the knees out a little further from each other. Let your forehead settle into the mat, or you can always slide a prop or even your hands underneath the forehead. If you need to bring the floor a little higher up for yourself. And we'll take a few breaths here. Let your low back settle. Let your seat settle towards the heels. Feel that sense of opening in the hips. And slowly start to rise back up. So we're arriving back up into our tabletop once again. From here, we're going to press up into our downward dog. So take your hands slightly forward, press into the pads of the fingers, tuck the toes, hips lift up and back. So now we've got our heels dropping towards the mat. They don't have to be making it there. It's just the direction they're headed. Chest pressing towards the thighs, and then there's always the option to bend the knees here, especially if the hamstrings are tight. We're going for a nice long, straight spine as much as possible. And then if you'd like to pedal here, you can bend into one knee and then the other. Just getting some stretch through the backs of the legs. Lots of creaks and pops out here. Hopefully you are too. And we'll come back to stillness. Take the gaze up towards your hands and just take little tiptoe steps up to meet your hands at the top of the mat. We'll end up in a forward fold there, head dropping. Spine soft. Again, knees can be bent here if that feels best. On your inhale, we'll half lift. So maybe hands to shins here. We want to try to bring our torso parallel with the floor. And then exhale, refold, drop the head towards the floor. Forehead towards knees. We'll do that again. Inhale, half lift, lengthen through your spine. Exhale to fold. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to fold. Next, inhale. We'll roll our way up the spine. So take that nice deep bend in the knees and then very slowly just start to roll your way up to standing. So there's no rush here. You're taking your time. Shoulders and neck and head are going to arrive last. Shoulders roll back. Palms come to face forward at the sides of the body. And here you can take some side to side shifts, maybe some forward and back shifts. And just let your weight plant really evenly on the soles of the feet. Great. So hands are going to come to the hips here, and you're going to take a big step back with the left foot. And ultimately, we're going to keep that right foot facing towards the top edge of the mat. And the left foot is going to come parallel to the back edge of the mat. We're setting ourselves up for warrior two here. So the hips are turned to face the long edge of the mat. Bending the right knee over the ankle. And then extend the arms out to the sides. So what we want to end up with here is really strong warrior legs. Right knee directly over the ankle, so make sure you're not extending it beyond the ankle. And then soft shoulders that are relaxing down away from the ears. One way you can do that is by flipping the palms, softening here, and then flip the palms back towards the floor without moving the shoulders. Turn the gaze over the right fingertips. Take some deep breaths. And then we'll flip our right palm back towards the ceiling and reverse. So your right knee is going to stay over the ankle. Reach up and back with right fingertips. Left hand can slide down the side of that left leg or the back of that left leg. Keeping right knee over the ankle, lift the heart. So we're finding length through our right side body. Take a few deep breaths. And on the next inhale, we'll arrive back upright in Warrior Two. Hands to the hips, straighten into the right leg, and we'll turn our right toes to face towards the long edge of the mat. So now both of our feet, our toes are facing that long edge of the mat. And what I'd like you to try to do here is turn the toes just slightly inward and heel slightly outward. So it's almost like you're a little bit pigeon-toed here in this stance. And then with the hands on the hips, inhale and find length in your spine. Exhale, hinge at the waist, and we're coming parallel to the floor. So similar to what we did in that half lift. Engage your core so that you protect the low back. And then you can continue down into this fold, dropping the head. If you have blocks, you can always have them underneath your hands, or you can bring your hands down to the floor or to the ankles. So you can take this as deep as you like. You can just hang here, maybe grab opposite elbows and sway. Or you can walk the hands through between the feet, drawing yourself deeper, or even grabbing the ankles to pull the heart towards the center of the legs. Maybe shake your head out a few times here, no, and yes. And then we'll bring our hands back to our hips, engage your core, and inhale to rise with a flat back. So nice and strong through the core as you come all the way back up to standing. And now we're going to turn the left toes out towards the back, what was the back of the mat. And we're keeping that right outer edge of the foot parallel to what is now the back of the mat. So we'll bend the left knee over the left ankle. So we're just moving into Warrior Two on the other side. So just like we did on the first side, we want to get that left knee directly over the ankle. We want to keep our hips opening towards the long edge of the mat, and then arms extend out. Soft shoulders, maybe flip the palms, soften into the shoulders, and then flip them back. Take the gaze over left fingertips. Strong here through the legs. Deep breaths. Flip the left palm towards the ceiling and reach up and back. Lengthen your left side body. Breathing into the left side rib cage. Left knee stays over ankle. Try not to straighten here. And inhale, rising back up, Warrior Two. Hands to hips. We're turning those left toes towards the long edge of the mat. This time though, we're actually going to end up turning our heels in and our toes out. So we're facing the long edge of the mat, but we've got our toes facing maybe not directly towards the ends of the mat, but they're heading in that way. And then we'll bend the knees tracking over the toes and dropping the tailbone towards the mat. Goddess pose. So we want to feel a nice opening here through the inner thighs. You might feel a little burning in those quads. This is a little bit of work we have to do here. Those muscles have to do. And then you might just start to shift your weight here side to side. So just get a little movement going. Find cactus arms. So palms are forward. Goalpost arms if you're not in Phoenix like me. Maybe cactus arms doesn't ring a bell for you, but here in Phoenix we know what that means. Open through the heart, so draw the shoulder blades back towards each other. Good, just a little bit longer. Try to keep that going. And then release the hands back to the hips, press into the soles of the feet to straighten the legs, rise up to standing. Turning your right toes back towards the top of the mat. We're going to turn our hips that way and then just step forward, back into mountain pose at the top of the mat, palms at the sides of the body facing forward. Inhale, sweep arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, find that half lift, that long spine. And then exhale, fold, plant your hands. And we're just going to step our feet back into our downward dog once again. Take a few breaths here. And drop your knees down, and we're headed back towards a child's pose. So knees might go wide again here, big toes touch, hips towards the heels, forehead dropping down either to the mat or a block or stacked hands. Let your whole body become very heavy. And turn your attention to your breath. Nice inhale, let's start to walk it back up. And back up onto the knees, and we're going to find a seat. So I'm going to turn to face you. You can sit however it feels good. We're coming to wide legs here. So we're going to take a wide-legged forward fold. We want to engage the legs, so we're pressing the heels down into the mat or the floor, toes flexing towards the ceiling. Lengthen up through your spine on an inhale, and as you exhale, just start to walk your hands forward. Draw your heart forward. So try to maintain some length in the spine. It doesn't matter how far you're folded. You may be up a little higher, maybe you can come a little lower. It's going to depend on your body today, where you're at in this moment. And once you found that point, you can't really come any further. If you want to soften just a little bit, you can let the spine begin to round and the head become just a little bit heavy. So try not to fully round and drop into it, but get just a little bit softer. And the next inhale, we'll walk back up to our seat. Bring the legs back in towards each other, give them a little shake. We're gonna move into a bigger hip opener here. So frog pose. Be gentle with yourself with this one, especially if you've never done it before. If you have tight like inner thighs especially, listen to your body and don't push beyond where it's telling you is okay. So we'll come to the knees, starting like you're in a tabletop here. And we're gonna walk the knees out wide. And as you do that, you want the feet to follow. So don't keep the feet in towards each other. You can if maybe this is a really tight space for you. You could always try that if this doesn't feel good. But otherwise, we want to take the lower legs, almost like they're parallel to one another. And then the inner edges of the feet, so the big toe edge of the feet, is going to press into the floor. You can take the knees as wide as it feels good for you. So you might start without them super wide just to see, and then if you want more, you can take it further. And then from here, if you'd like, you can come down to the forearms, or you can stay up on the palms if that feels better. And you're just gonna start to press your hips back slightly. So you'll probably start to immediately feel some sensation as you press back. So again, it's not a huge movement here, it's just a slight pressing back of your tailbone towards the wall behind you. So you try to maintain some length here again in the spine and stay centered with your breath. Again, if this is too much, always can stay on the palms. And if it still feels like too much, you can bring the feet back towards each other, almost like a really wide-legged child's pose, except without dropping all the way down with your seat. Find what feels right for you. A few more breaths here. And then nice and slow, if you're on the forearms, walk back up to the palms, and we'll just gently bring our knees back in towards each other. And just take a seat on the knees for a moment. So we're just relieving some of that tension through the inner thighs. Roll the shoulders back a couple of times. Deep breaths. And when you feel ready, we're gonna make our way back to the back once again. Again, you can hug the knees in towards the chest and find a little rock. Give yourself that massage, or you could take a hand on each knee and make some big circles here. Give yourself a massage that way. If you're doing those circles, just take them in the opposite direction as well. And then we're gonna bring the feet back to the mat. This time what we're gonna do is bring the soles of the feet together and the knees out wide. So if this feels like a lot, slide your feet further out away from your body. And if you're working with props and you wanna slide something underneath your knees, you're welcome to do that here. Then just let your arms rest wherever they feel comfortable. So they could be at the sides of the body. If you want to, you could extend them back towards the wall behind you, or find those cactus or goalpost arms again. Or bring one hand to the belly and one to the heart. Your eyes close. Let your attention return to the breath. That even and smooth flow of breath in and out through the nose. And I will leave you here to take your Shavasana. So you can take Shavasana in this shape if this feels good, or you might just hold it for a little bit longer and then extend your legs out long and take a more traditional Shavasana. But I recommend taking Shavasana for at least a few minutes, if not longer, maybe even up to 10 minutes. Give yourself the opportunity to reap the rewards of the movement we just took by allowing it to really soak in and settle. So thank you for joining me today for this practice. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, please leave a comment. If you have any comments, leave a comment there, and I hope to have you join me again.